All satellites operative, Captain.
How many movies about space have you seen? 1, 5, 10, 20? There are over 50 movies that have been made about space.
No way.
They give us the feeling of eeriness and thrill while we watch them. We get so impressed with these movies as if we are going on these space missions with the astronauts themselves. All of these movies usually present NASA, never a straight answer. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, as the space agency that carries out the missions and the plots and the movies and the stuff. And whenever we talk about space, and we undoubtedly think that NASA is the ones doing it without even giving it a second thought, well, today we will take a look at NASA, the spacecraft that they made that touched the sun for the first time.
Gasp!
How did it all begin? It began over 60 years ago, when Nazi war criminals were looking for a job and were accepted with open arms in NASA and into Walt Disney at the same time. Working together with Stanley Kubrick to fake space, they had an understanding back in those days that the sun did behave in certain ways, and after years of planning, they achieved their first ever entry in the sun's atmosphere. And after 3 long years, on April 28th, 2021, or so they say, it became the first spacecraft to enter the sun's atmosphere. The project was announced in the year 2009, and the cost of the whole project is $1.5 billion. There were studies done in the 1970s and 80s that stressed the importance of understanding the solar system more and researching it and needing more money to do so, and so getting the physical proof needed, data to support the theories that were always there that they researched theoretically. With more money they needed to build a new spacecraft, but they didn't know how much it would cost, and so they keep postponing the plans as they take in the money to decide what to do with it. And the Laboratory of Applied Physics at the Johns Hopkins University, which now has the S, of course, it makes it really hard to say, they're the ones that designed and built the spacecraft, the Parker Solar Probe, and across the A1.
A1 has 13 seasonings in it.
A1 airspace, which is believed to be the end of the solar winds. That's the critical surface area that we decided through these cartoons in the beginning is the sun's atmosphere. And a major portion of this mission for the solar probe was to cross the A1 and
Shake some in the stew, Igor. Stew. Shake some on the meatballs, Beverly. A1. Experiment with it.
to be able to fly into this cartoon of solar atmosphere we're showing you here. And according to the solar probes, the spacecraft entered the corona
Drinking beers.
atmosphere around 3 times on April 28th, or so they say. The findings of the Parker Solar Probe within the corona atmosphere. The spacecraft took samples of the particles and the magnetic fields in space, as shown here in this crazy little thing that looks like magnets and I don't know. And the samples taken by the Parker Solar Probe and the repetitive entry into the corona atmosphere resulted in the discovery of switchbacks.
All right, I'll switch you back.
Which are the those are those magnetic zigzag particles I showed you earlier. Those are the ones found in the solar wind. And we were found to be originating on the sun's surface as shown in these explosive cartoons we've drawn for you. These particles were found in 2019 by the spacecraft, and they are common in the solar wind. However, how they're created and what are the places that they specifically are found is still a mystery to NASA. None of our scary cartoons helped us at all. These particles do have an impact on the solar system, and having a deeper knowledge about this impact can help us. And the scientists that need to understand how the sun influences the Earth. The main aim for the mission of NASA is money, and to be able to trace that the energy and the heat moving through the different colored cartoons we have here, the solar corona atmosphere, and also to be able to understand what increases the solar wind. And and the solar energetic particles and the size of the corona atmosphere that we created up.
Corona light.
And the increasing pattern, which increases every 11 years because we say so. Another finding of the solar probe is the boundaries of the corona. They're not smooth. In fact, they're uneven and bumpy and unsightly, jutting out in places. In fact, when the solar probe first entered the corona atmosphere, it stayed there about 5 hours. It wouldn't leave until it gathered the information of the solar wind shown here in these black and white crazy stills. This was not the only time the spacecraft entered the corona atmosphere.
Beer!
And it won't be the last time ever, that's the threat, as there are more passages planned for the future. The Parker Solar Space Probe. And Eugene Parker. He was the scientist who first suggested that the sun sent out tiny streams of particles unseen to the human eye. See, he showed you this video with, looks like a beginning of the Twilight Zone or your screen. You need to adjust the antennas. And he said the same particles of the solar wind back then when the pursuit of knowledge and solar systems had just begun, as shown here by these stock footage of people in white coats. But it turned out he was right. Fast forward to when we have the technology now to prove such things right with science, data, and statistics. The spaceship itself was able to make this tremendous feat and get so close to the sun due to the way it was built, by the materials it was constructed with. The spacecraft can withstand the temperatures of more than 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
No way.
This spacecraft was able to accomplish this amazing feat due to the way that it was built. The spacecraft was made with heat-tolerant chemical materials used to make it so durable, including sapphire, niobium, tungsten, molybdenum, and dilithium crystals.
Our dilithium crystals represent awesome power.
The spacecraft, which is the size of a small car, is protected from the sun by a 4.5-inch thick carbon composite shield, which is in front of the body of the spacecraft for protection. And then when it's the closest to the sun, it faces temperatures reaching up to 2,500 degrees.
No way.
The probe and heat shield have a layer of a white reflective aluminum surface which minimizes the heat absorption.
You see, the Reynolds wrap reflects the heat, and for outdoor cooking, it can't be beat.
Without this aluminum surface, the probe would most likely be destroyed and become non-functional within a matter of seconds. Currently, the probe has completed its 10th approach to the sun on November 21st, coming so close to the solar surface so far that it was only 5.3 million miles away.
No way. No way. Whoa.
The probe itself is covered with a thick foam that keeps it cool while it works near the sun. And the solar probe flies at over 430,000 miles an hour.
Oh, shit.
This constant movement with the high speed ensures that the solar probe doesn't face any real heat damage. The future of the Parker Solar Probe, even though the spacecraft has offered so much information already, there's still a lot more money that's needed. Work to be done. As planned by NASA, the solar probe will then approach the sun around 24 times, and by 2025, it'll be the closest to the sun it has ever been.
No way.
Only be around 3.8 million miles away from the sun. High level of solar activity is expected in 2025, as shown you in this cartoon. Gaining more technical data from this will help scientists understand as well as forecast the extreme weather conditions they plan on doing to you. This will help scientists figure out events in space that could possibly damage the satellites, the cartoons that fly around the Earth, as well as cut off or disrupt the communication between the Earth and space.
Hello.
The solar winds ejected from the sun's atmosphere have the ability to reach Earth As scientists, as shown here in the stock footage of people in white coats, they're trying to figure out how this occurs millions of miles away in someone else's imagination. This can help boost their research and their pockets by asking for more money to understand other stars in space and how they can impact our solar system. As shown in this cartoon, the sun is the only star that the scientists can study up close. There were a lot of risks involved in sending this probe into the surface of the sun successfully, as well as lots and lots of money. Being that it had to function in this incredibly scary thermal cartoon environment. But don't worry, NASA was successfully able to achieve that and more. And they will continue to do things like this to make you think space is real and pick your pockets to get more money out of you. And you'll continue to believe in cartoons flying through space because
Satellite tracking continues.